How's everybody doing? Uh, what I'm doing tonight is I'm starting a series of lives for my consulting firm, and it says some live is starting, so hopefully that means that it's getting started now. But we're officially going to start our live at 8:15. I'm still waiting for it to show that. Yeah, it's showing that I am live. So we are going to officially start our live at 8:15 Eastern Standard Time PM. So I'm just on here right now, just kind of prepping you all and getting everybody ready. And I'm just going to be sharing my live out to different places. Let me get it shared out, and so we can be ready to just officially start at 8:15. So let me share this now to some groups, and I'm gonna get this shared out to some groups. So give me a moment. I'm particularly wanting to share this with a lot of trucking groups because I wanted to talk about something that's going to potentially change the way owner operators acquire the vehicles, and this could be a potential game changer. So hopefully we'll get quite a few people on here that will be looking at this live. I'm just trying to get it out to, because we don't officially start until 8:15, but we're going to see if we get any viewers on here. Black entrepreneurs. Okay. I think we are about ready. Investment opportunities. Investment opportunities. Truckers passing time. All right. I think we're about ready. I've got to share it out to enough places, I think. Let me go through this real quick. We got about 10 minutes left to go. Got about 10 more minutes, so all right. So let's go ahead and get started with this. All right. All right. So I think we got to share it out to all the places that we needed to share it out to. I'm trying to figure out how to share my screen once the live has started, but I don't think you can do that once the live has started. It doesn't really allow you to share the screen. View insights, goals, stream matrix. So it looks like I have to shut it down and start over in order to share my screen. This is not like some of the other things that I do where you can just share your screen, while you're doing it. Facebook is kind of, I'm not sure what they have going on here. But anyway, I'm going to try and see here. Settings, stream, viewer, tap live, distribution, nope. Activity, nope. We may have to shut it down and then start back over so I can share my screen. Good thing I started this early. But we're going to be back at 8:15, and I'm going to be sharing my screen. And that way we can, I can have it to where I can share the screen and show you all some things. So, but you all won't be able to see me because I don't think Facebook allows you to do both, share your screen and have it where they can see you at the same time. And they don't have it to where you can just, in the middle of your live, just start sharing screens. So it doesn't look like you can do that, which is kind of disappointing. That's very disappointing. Yeah, that is actually very disappointing. Um, I don't know why they have it like that. All right. But anyway, let me get off of this and I will come back and we will hopefully be able to share the screen when I come back. But, you know, they won't let you do it while the live is going. They won't let that happen for some reason. I don't know why Facebook does that. I guess it's maybe something where they can't compete with manage on the second device. Yeah, you just can't share the screen. Okay. All right. So let me get off this. Let me end this live, and then we'll come back, and then we'll do the share screen when we come back. For some reason, you can't do it now. You can stream, but you can't share the screen. Doesn't look like you can share the screen. All right. So all right. So let me get off this, and I will come back, and then we'll come back at 8 in about 5 minutes, and I'll be able to share. I'll be able to go ahead and talk about what we need to talk about and show y'all some things. All right, everybody. I think I got this right now so far. So looks like we are live. Let me check my site here to make sure that we're up and live the way I want to be. Yep, we're up and live the way I kind of wanted it. So, all right. Good evening, everybody. Again, my name is Calvin Butler. Most of y'all know who I am. I'm going live because we want to talk about some things, some financial things. A lot of people really don't understand, exactly how to invest. Okay, I know there's a lot of people that say they know how to invest, but there's quite a few people out there who really don't know don't know exactly how to invest. So that's what I am going to start. What I'm going to be showing tonight. So I'm going to be showing you all just how to invest in different things and how to invest in a way that it can make you wealthy in a pretty short time period versus investing to make your grandparents or your your grandkids or your great grandkids wealthy. There's different ways that you need to know how to invest in order to make yourself wealthy. Give me a second here. I don't know why it keeps switching over. I'm trying to make sure that everything is showing the way it should be. All right, there we go. I'm back to the right thing now. All right, so there are two ways you can invest. Okay, if you invest in established companies, let's say if you invest in an Amazon right now, Okay, if you go and you start investing in Amazon right now, you're not going to make yourself wealthy. Okay, you're just not. You're just not going to make yourself wealthy if you invest in Amazon right now, as Amazon says, because Amazon's already a very established company, and they've got plenty of, they've got plenty of, yeah, and they've got plenty of, of assets and things like that. So you're really not going to make a lot of money for yourself if you invest in an established company right now, like Amazon, Uber, Lyft, all these companies that made people billionaires. But the reason why they became billionaires because they invested in those companies before they became a company. They invested in the idea of a company. They invested in the vision of a company. They invested in, the concept. Okay? Because they took that bigger risk. Now, it may not have cost them a whole bunch of money to become a part of that company or become one of the owners of that company, because you have what's called, your principal shareholders who are basically the owners of that company. And the way people become principal shareholders of companies that they really had nothing to do with creating or nothing to do with the vision is they invested in the very, very first stage before it even became a company, before it had proven itself, before it became a company, when it was just a pre-starter. It wasn't even a startup yet. It was just an idea. It was a concept. Okay? If you invest in a concept that has promise, and then that concept proves to be viable, or it goes on to become what it's supposed to be, then yes, you become billionaires. If you invest in a company after it's proven itself, after it's already gained traction in the market, after it's already making money, you're not going to make yourself any money. You're investing for the long term for your great grandkids and your great great grandkids. And if you put enough money into it, they will be wealthy, but you won't be wealthy. You just have a lot of stock in the company at whatever the price is, but but your stock is not really worth, much more than what you pay for it. If you go out and you buy, 1,000,000 shares of Amazon right now, which is trading, I think, somewhere around 460 something, almost $600 a share. If you buy 1,000,000 shares of Amazon, you're gonna spend at $600 and some odd dollars a share. You're gonna spend a lot of money. You're gonna spend, like $600 million. That's what you're gonna spend. And if you sell it in a year from now, you're not going to recoup much more than what you paid for it, because you waited till the company became very successful. The SEC had already given its evaluation of that company, given it a value, and so you invested in that now. That's for long term. I mean, very long term wealth, and that's wealth that's going to benefit your great grandkids, your great great grandkids, maybe your grandkids, but definitely your great grandkids and your great great grandkids. Why? Because they didn't have to put anything into that. And then if they sell that stock and you got 6 million shares of it, then yeah, they're wealthy, because the stock will stay stable. It stays stable. It may have gone up maybe, $60, $30, over the last 30, 40, 50 years, or maybe even $100. And then, but that doesn't matter to them, because at its face value, when you bought it, it was worth $600 and some odd dollars a share. If you bought 6 million shares of it, that's $60 million that they can sell that stock and actually get $60 million or $600 million. I'm sorry, they can actually get $600 million. But that does you no good. That's for your your descendants, your heirs. That's for the generational wealth. So I need you all to understand that if you're going out and investing in stuff, it depends on what your goal is. If your goal is to make your future generations wealthy, is to create generational wealth, that's great. That's your goal. You can invest in stable stock, Procter and Gamble, Amazon, Walmart, Uber, Lyft, all these things that, that are already established. They have a set, market value, and they're they're already engraved into the financial institutional concept of the overall economy. But that's not going to do you any good. That's not going to make you any great wealth in your lifetime. If you want to create wealth for yourself in your lifetime, if you want to create you want to invest in stuff that's going to make you a multimillionaire in your lifetime, that could make you a billionaire in your lifetime, you need to start researching and looking for stuff that is before it becomes a company. Start attaching yourself to people who have these creative ideas of creating a new way of doing something. Take, for instance, I'm going to give you an example. If you all had went and let's say back in 1999, if someone came to you in 1999, 1998, and said, I have this idea for an app, a concept for this app, and create a company that would allow people to use their everyday cars, their regular cars, their own vehicles, that will allow them to be able to sign up on this app, post their vehicles with this app, and people would come on and looking for rides, and they would book a ride, and you get a notification, and then you can go pick them up and take them where they need to go in your personal car, and you get paid for it. Would you have invested in that? In 1998, most people, 99% of the people who were presented with that said, man, that's never gonna work. That's what they have cabs for. That's what taxis are for. That's what shuttle buses are for. That's what shuttle vans. That's never gonna work. How is that gonna work? But now we have Uber and Lyft. And those people that saw that vision, that looked beyond the obvious, and said, you know what? You might be onto something. Those people got into investing in that concept, that vision, that idea. And now those people are, multi-millionaires to the tune of $100 million or so. Some of them billionaires now. Because they attached themselves to, and they invested in something before it actually became a business. They attached themselves and put their money into something that was a vision. That was a concept. It wasn't an actual business. It wasn't even a working format. But this is how you become truly wealthy in your lifetime. Now remember, that was in 1998. It's not like it's that long ago. That's something that happened within your span of a lifetime. Uber came about in 2010, somewhere around there. Because I remember when Uber first came out in 2010, I was driving for Uber. I was one of the first, when Uber first hit Tallahassee. I had my Range Rover on what's called Uber Black. They don't have the Uber Black now, but they had the Uber Black back then. It was for the luxury vehicles. And that was back in 2010, 2011, 2012. And I remember that because I used to take my Range Rover down to Miami, Orlando, places like that, and just spend the whole weekend just running Uber. That was before they had the limits on how long you can drive and and all that stuff. You really didn't have to take sleep breaks and nothing like that. I would go down and get a cheap hotel room. It was like me and 3 other guys. We would go down there. We would all get this big cheap hotel room, and we would take turns. We come back and crash for a couple hours. And we get back up and we drive. And we head down there like on a Friday and come back like on a Monday. And in that weekend, we was all making around $5,000 to $7,000 when Uber first started out, because we was doing the Uber Black thing, and it was just constant running because you was in a busy city. Okay, places like Miami, or Orlando especially. As soon as you drop somebody off, you was getting dinged at the place you dropped them off at to pick somebody else up, which was basically the airport, Disney World, and and Universal Studios. You just running in a circle, making money. But the people who invested in that in 1998 before it became a business, when it was just a concept, when it was in the pre-startup stage, those people that invest in it, a lot of them are billionaires. Some of them are multimillionaires, especially the ones that got into it at the pre-seed, SEED, okay, in the pre-seed capital fundraising part of it. That's what we want to talk about, the different stages of funding for a startup and where you need to be in order to capitalize on the most money you can make when you invest in a startup. Because it's very important to, when you come into a startup, when you put your money in, it's going to determine how much money you're going to make or how successful you're going to be with that company as far as making money, as far as getting a return on your money and things like that. So let's remember something. If you invest in an already established company, you're not going to make money for yourself. You are basically creating wealth for your grandkids, great-grand, and great-great-grand and beyond. You're not creating money for yourself. That's not going to do you personally any good, no way, shape, or form. Okay? Let's make that, let's get that understood. All right? So, with that being said, but if you invest in a startup if you invest in the vision or an idea of a company, then you have a chance in your lifetime to become truly wealthy. Not just for yourself, but for your generations to come after that too. So you have to know what to look for and how to kind of evaluate an opportunity or the vision of a product or a company or a service. You have to look at it and say, okay, does this product, service, or company, does it have the elements to bring about radical change within an already set industry? Is this going to disrupt the status quo? Is this doing something drastically different than what's out there already? Case in point, Uber. Before that, cab companies had a run on picking people up and taking them where they want to be at. You know, you had to have some type of license, start your own cab company. You had to go work for this company. You had to be in their vehicle. You had the little things to shift. You had to keep your certificate thing done. And I had to have a certificate, state certificate, pass these driving tests, all this stuff you had to do. And then you got paid by the cab company, right? Which was not really a whole bunch considering what they was charging, right? So here comes this idea, this little geeky guy that says, I'm going to make it to where everybody who owns a vehicle that's not more than 20 years old can use their vehicle to pick people up and make money just by clicking on their phone or clicking on the app and going to pick people up. And the people will pay them on the app. They can tip them and all that stuff without it changing hands of real money whatsoever. That was radical. That's a radical change from what cab drivers do. And on top of that, it stands a chance of putting cab drivers out of business. So that was something that was radical. It was a big change. I'm going to give you one more before I get into showing you the different stages. This is one that I screwed up on myself. Me, personally. I missed out on an opportunity that would have made me a billionaire. I lie to you not. This was in 1989. I was in 1987 and 88 and 80. Yeah, I was at Fort Drum, New York. I was in the Army. My first wife was also in the Army. She was an Army nurse. And she transferred to Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, Texas. And I was offered the opportunity after I got hurt in the military. They offered me an early out, and with the bonus, when they had the bonuses of like $40,000. I took the early out, took the $42,000 or whatever, and I left the military and went to San Antonio to join my wife. All right, got to San Antonio. Here I am. I'm fresh out the military. I'm pretty young. 26, 27 years old. I'm pretty young, fresh out the military and everything, and and I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do. I had already applied to the police academy because I was going to be a police officer there. But while I was waiting for the police academy stuff, I was basically just bumming around, waiting on the academy to start, right? So here it is. I've got like $46,000 in the bank from my early out bonus. And I see this thing on television there in San Antonio, and people talking on the radio about this investment opportunity. And they was going to be showing it at the Sheraton in downtown San Antonio, at the Sheraton, the Hyatt Sheraton, the thing, the big ballroom there. So I went, and these guys come in, about 4 or 5 of them. They come in, and they started pitching us the idea of selling bottled water. Now remember, this is in 1989. Bottled water. Something they was going to be talking. They was trying to pitch us on the idea of them starting a company based in Florida that was going to sell water. Okay, bottled water. Now, this is when I tell you have to be able to see the vision. Or if you discount the vision, you could miss out on becoming a billionaire. Because I'm sitting thinking to myself, okay, they're going to sell bottled water. They're talking about how they're going to sell it at the fitness centers. They're going to sell it, at the marathon. They're going to sell it in the grocery stores. Everybody's going to be buying bottled water. You're talking about how in California, people are already starting to drink, purified water and stuff. And they was going to sell this bottled water from Florida. I think people crazy. Now, there was about 200, 300 people at that presentation for that business opportunity. After they made their pitch and everything, they said, okay, we're going to give y'all about 15 minutes to kind of think things over. And so we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back and let y'all talk amongst yourselves. And we'll come back in about 15 minutes. Now, the setup was, if you put in, let's say, $5,000, you got 500,000 shares. If you put in $10,000, you got a million shares, or some ungodly number of shares, 15 million shares. And if you put in like 20 or 30 or 40 or $50,000, you got 20 million, 30 million shares. Now, mind you, I had $46,000 in the bank, which when I went there, I think to myself, okay, if I'm going to invest in it, I need to draw some money out, right? I actually went to the bank and I drew out 20 grand. I had in my backpack, went there, I had 20 grand in my backpack when they pitched this. Now, during the break, when they left, me being the smart behind person that I am, and very talkative, I stood up and I said, look, I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I'm from Florida. And it's surrounded on 3 sides by water. And let me clue y'all in on something. It's free. If I go out of here right now and go down the hall, I can drink water out the water fountain for free. I can go walk down in the neighborhood, knock on a stranger's door, say, sir, can I have a glass of water? They would give it to me for free. I can go in the gas station, in the store, and say, do y'all have, can I have a drink of water? Yeah, that's a water fountain right over there. Or here's a glass, and let me get you some ice. Would you like some ice in it? It's free. In just about every restaurant you go to, if you ask for water, it's free. And these people want us to invest our hard-earned money into something that people can get for free? I say, I don't know about y'all, but if y'all invest in this, y'all crazy. And I left, and about 150 to 200 people left with me. You think if those same people saw me now? You think they'd be a little upset with me? Anybody out there, do you think those people would be upset with me? Because if I had invested just 10 grand, just 5 grand, I would be a wealthy man, because that company turned out to be Zephyr Hills Bottled Water. The place in Florida that they was talking about was Zephyr Hills, Florida. And those three out of the 5 men were there. They were the brothers that started Zephyr Hills Bottled Water. Now, about a year and a half to 2 years later, well within my lifetime, just 2 years later, I was in Florida at a grocery store in Albertson. And what did I see on all the shelves? in gallon jugs, in 20-ounce bottles, in the small bottles, well, the bottled water everywhere. And people were buying it like it was better than chocolate candy. And I got this sick feeling in the pit of my stomach and said to myself, boy, what a fool I was. I had the opportunity to invest in something that would have made me literally a billionaire. Because I had that much money on hand, I could invest in it and gotten like, you know how much, look it up. Look up to see what the stock price of Jeffrey Hill is right now, water. And I had 46,000, I had 20 grand in my backpack. Half of that would have made me, $600-700 million. I could have literally been a billionaire right now, if I had understood the concept of evaluating and realizing a vision is where you make your money. Investing in something that stands to disrupt the status quo. Investing in something that's going to bring about a drastic change. But you have to invest in it before it becomes a business. Because if you invest in it when it's already an established business, then it ain't doing, you ain't going to make no money. You make money for your great-grandkids and great-great-grandkids and great-great-great-grandkids. Yeah, you create generational wealth for everybody else except for yourself. But if you invest in a startup before it actually becomes a startup, you invest in an idea, if you invest in the vision, if you invest in a dream that someone has, and they can show you, okay, this is what this is going to do, this is how we're going to do this is what we're looking to change, and whatever this and that. And if that makes sense to you, and they're offering an opportunity to get in on that, you might want to get in on that. I missed a big opportunity with bottled water. I missed another opportunity later on with Bitcoin. But I did get into Bitcoins, but I could have got into Bitcoins back when it was just, I could have got 12 Bitcoins for $72. But I waited a couple of years and wound up buying 11 Bitcoins at about $2,700 each, which wound up making me a lot of money by 2018 because Bitcoin jumped all the way up to about $60,000, $70,000. And then when I started falling out, I sold half of them. Right, which I bought them at $2,600, $2,700 Bitcoin. I sold like 6 of them at about $6,000 to $8,000 each. You see how you catch that opportunity when it's way down there at the bottom, but then because it was an idea, it was a vision, it was a concept, and then it became something tangible, became a business, became very viable. It caught on, and then you make money. Well, that's how you become billionaires. That's people who invest in Apple, same thing. People who invest in Uber, same thing. Don't wait until something becomes a business and then try to jump on because you ain't going nowhere. It's just going to sit still for you. But then when you're dead and gone, your grandkids and your great-grandkids, they can sell your stock. And then, they got money. You ain't got squat. Okay, so let's get into the stages of investing in a startup, and I'm going to kind of walk you all through each stage and tell you what the SEC, that's the ruling body that controls all of the financial, evaluations of companies and how you can invest and who can invest. Because once you get to a certain stage, the average person cannot invest until it gets to another stage. I want y'all to understand something. Once a concept becomes a business, the average person cannot, even if they want to, cannot invest in it until it gets to the exit strategy stage. So you either catch it at the vision, the dream, the concept stage, or you catch it at the IPO stage, initial public offering. And by the time you catch it at that stage, That's when it's been given a valuation by the SEC, and is this umpteen is these shares are worth a lot of money, and you can't afford to buy a whole bunch of shares. But if you catch it at the startup stage or at the vision stage, you can buy shares, like, whoo, it doesn't cost a whole lot. Literally, you can buy shares at almost like in some cases, less than a penny. That's why you have the term called penny stock. All right, but let's go through it. All right, so what are the funding stages of a startup? All right. The funding stages of a startup represent different phases in a company's life cycle, each with distinct characteristics, goals, and types of investing. This is what I'm saying. And types of investors. This is very key because you're not going to qualify for all the types of investors. You only qualify for one at the very beginning or the last one at the very end. The in-between is not for you. It's for people who have a certain net worth and who make a certain amount of money each year. They have a certain income level. They have a certain amount of assets. Those are called accredited investors. Some of you who've been in around the money market industry, you've heard that phrase, accredited investor. What is an accredited investor, and why only they can invest at certain stages in a business or a company or a startup? Because the SEC says that they do not want individuals who they say should not be able to afford to invest. They don't want them to invest in stuff. You have to be an accredited investor at that middle stage. Okay, you have to be an accredited investor. You have to have a net worth usually somewhere between $500,000 or more. You have to have verifiable revenue or income coming in that puts you well over $150,000 a year. You have to have a certain amount of assets to be an accredited investor. So let's go through it. All right. And types of investors. All right. They also come with different levels of funding. Crunchbase reported that the average seed round, that's to be, each level of funding is called seed. You have a pre-seed funding, then you have seed funding. Okay? So in the first two stages, those are called your seed rounds. The average seed round is in the first quarter of 2023 for U.S. startups was $3.6 million, while the average Series A round was $18.7 million. Now, when you get to that Series A round, most of y'all won't qualify. I'm going to tell you right now. Whenever you have a company that says we're raising funds for our Series A fund, that don't mean you can put money into it because the SEC won't allow you to. They can't accept your money. They cannot accept your money if your net worth does not exceed $500,000. If your yearly income does not exceed $150,000. If you do not have a certain amount of assets, you are not going to qualify for a Series A funding. Okay, you're just not going to qualify for it. So let's get to and tell you why this is and what stages you can actually get involved in something. All right. Here's an overview of these stages. All right. Pre-seed funding. Okay, that is the very first stage of funding. That is before a company even becomes a company. It's just a concept. It's an idea. It's a dream. It's a vision. Okay, and the people are sharing their vision with their friends, family, and associates. Okay, hey, I got this vision for this and that, and I'm offering you, a percentage of ownership if you can put money into this vision and help us get to the next round of funding so we can get to that next round of funding. Y'all are starting to see the value of that pre-seed funding. Because that's the stage where you actually become one of the owners of the company, a principal investor, a principal shareholder. That's what it means by becoming a principal shareholder, a principal owner of a company. That's where you have the opportunity to become an owner of that company. Now, as it says here, this is considered the earliest funding stage. It typically involves the founders, the person who came up with this idea, or one or two of them, or three, or whoever the founders are, came up with this idea, using their own resources and funds from friends and family to launch the business. So at that stage, the SEC said that if you're one of my friends or one of my associates that I talk to, you can be a social media friend, you can be whatever, but you're someone that I'm having a conversation with, and I'm letting you in on what I'm thinking about trying to do, and I said to you, I'm trying to raise money to get to that seed funding stage, because now I'm in the pre-seed funding phase. I don't actually have a company that's set up. I got this idea for a company, I have a concept. You may have a website that you can show people, this is my concept, this is what we're going to be doing, and all this other stuff. If you can get in at that stage, that is the best place to be, the best opportunity for you to become multimillionaires and to become billionaires. That's the best opportunity you as an average person is going to ever get. Is at the pre-seed funding level. I really need you all to understand this. If you are going to make a significant change in your financial standing of becoming a multimillionaire and even a billionaire in your lifetime, you need to be in on the pre-seed funding stage of any venture. Unless you've already got millions and millions of dollars where you can get in on some of these other stages, because after that stage, you can't get in until the exit strategy stage, is the IPO stage. And let me go and explain to you all why it's so important to get in on this pre-seed funding stage. All right, as you say, consider the earliest funding stage. It typically involves the founders using their own resources or funds from friends and family to launch their business. Pre-seed funding often precedes product development. Precedes means it comes before the actual product or the company is actually developed. In other words, you've heard this person's vision. They've shared their dream with you. They've shared the concept with you. And you get it. You see it. You believe in it. You see that, okay, well, based on what we have here and what the industry is already doing, this has an opportunity to be a game changer. This has an opportunity to disrupt the status quo. This has an opportunity to appeal to a big segment of the market. Okay, well, here's my $5,000. Here's my $10,000. Here's my $20, $30, $40, $50, $60, $70,000 because I believe in this part of the company. Now, for my $5,000, what am I getting? Here, for $5,000, we're going to give you 2.5% ownership of the company. Now, that may not sound like a lot, but if that was an Uber or even a Zephyr Hills bottled water, that would make you, by the time you get to the exit strategy, because you're one of the owners of the company. You're one of the owners of the company. Because when they get to that next stage, when they start creating shares for that company. Because remember, the company doesn't have any shares right now. The company has no stock, has no shares. It's just a concept. You invested in the concept, which means you're getting a certain percentage of ownership of that company when it becomes a company. So if your percentage is 2.5%, and then once it gets to the next stage and they create, let's say, 100 million shares, okay, 100 million shares, and they set aside, let's say, 60 million shares let's say they set aside 60 million shares for the owners of the company, all right, and the other 40 million shares is for the general public to purchase at the later seed stage when they start selling shares of the company. But in this next stage, you got 60 million shares that's for the owners of the company. And if your cut of that 60 million shares, you put in your, let's say, $5,000, and they're giving you 2.5% of the company, 60 million shares, you're getting 2.5% of that. That basically times 2.5%, that means You got 1,500,000 shares of that company. Now, if that was an offer to you back when Amazon was, just a thought in somebody's mind, a thought in Jeff Bezos' mind, and he came to you and one of his friends, family, whatever, he said, look here, or Apple, right? Steve Jobs started in his garage. If he came in and said, look, man, we're talking about starting this computer company and we're gonna make these personal computers and this and that. And he said, look, if you throw in $5,000, remember, he sold his car for $1,500 and his buddy sold something else that was like $700, and they got like $15,000 from 3 other friends or something like that, all combined, and that's how they started Apple. Now, each one of them turned out to have millions and millions of shares of Apple. Why? Because they came in at a time when they just put their little friends and associates put their money in to get them started. Now, those same people, if that was you with Apple at 2.5%, you got 1.5 million shares, right? You now got 1.5 million shares for your little $5,000 that you put into Apple, right? You got 1.5 million shares, and Apple right now is, let's say, probably worth what, $300, $400 a share? Times $400 a share. You see? That's your best chance of becoming, multi-wealthy or a billionaire. In that scenario, $5,000, right? And this is in your lifetime. In your lifetime, $5,000 would have brought you $600 million. That's the power of recognizing when to get in. Okay? I want y'all to understand this. This is the power of recognizing when to get in. A lot of people sending me some messages here. Let me see what we got here. I got some people sending me some messages. I don't know what they want to say, but let me check my messages and see what's going on with the messages. Oh, it said some new request from Becky. All right. I don't know Becky right now, but let's get back over to where we were. All right. But that's the power of knowing when to get in. Okay? In this scenario, $5,000 would have brought you $600 million in a span of 10 to 15 years. In your lifetime. In the case of Uber, it would have brought you probably that much in half that time, in a span of 5, 6, 7 years. What other companies can you all think of? Like in my case, it would have brought that to me in the span of 3 years if I hadn't been, such a smart ass. Okay? And all those people that walked out of that opportunity meeting with me to invest in bottled water, it would have brought, we all would have been multimillionaires in the span of 3 to 5 years. Understand when to get in when it comes to investing. All right, so in this stage, this is called the pre-seed funding stage. This is when it's just a concept. It's an idea. They may have something to show you of showing you how it actually works and all this other stuff, but it's not an actual company that has revenue yet. It doesn't have clients. It doesn't have customers. It's just it's a startup. It's an idea. It's a vision. It's a dream. Okay. So, for those people who invest in this stage, they now become owners of the company, right? Let's say if they was putting in $10,000, they got 5% in ownership. They was putting in $20,000, they got 10% ownership. If they was putting in $40,000, they got 20% ownership. If they was putting in $80,000, they got 40% ownership, or something like that. Which means they would get that percentage of the shares when they get to the stage when they create the shares for the company. The founders and the owners of the principal owners, they get to create shares. They create the shares. Primarily, the founder sets up and says, okay, we're gonna start off by creating, 100 or 200 or 300 million shares. You probably say, why so many shares? Why? Because they got to have at least 50 to 60% of those shares are for the principal owners. That's what those shares are for. Those other 40% of those shares is when they get to a later stage, and when they're also doing these other stages where you have these venture capitalists who come in and start investing, and accredited investors when they invest, and then eventually when you get to the IPO stage. Okay, let's go to the next stage. Okay, now in the pre-seed funding stage, you've gotten your friends, family, and associates to put money in, and they all got their percentages of what piece of how much of the company they own. Okay, now and usually that money is used for product development or marketing of the service, social media marketing, mainstream marketing, ads and stuff, getting the word out that this is what we have and we want to bring in clientele, building your first set of clientele. Okay, that's why you raise that pre-seed funding, so you can actually start the business. In some cases, you have to have websites built, or websites upgraded. You have to have apps built. Well, people don't build that stuff for free. They charge money for that. That's the purpose of having a pre-seed funding. And that is the best opportunity for everyday people to get in on a company that could eventually make them millionaires and billionaires. Because as you're going to see, you are excluded from everything in between after that. Let's get to the next stage. The seed funding stage. Seed funding is the first official funding stage. Because remember, the pre-seed funding is really not official. It's just that you're going to your friends and family. That's why the SEC says that those people don't have to be accredited. And usually you're not raising a whole bunch of money during that phase. Because as you can see here, during that phase, right, it says that the average was raised during that phase was 3.6 million, per company. The next stage is that 18.7 million. You see what I'm saying? And then it gets bigger and bigger as you go to each stage. But because you're not raising a whole lot of money percentage-wise to start the company, the SEC says that everyday ordinary people, your friends, family, associates, they can take part in that and become part owners of the company. Now the thing is, they can't let a whole bunch of people take part in that. It's not like you got 300 people all investing in the pre-seed stage and they each getting a piece of the company. No. That is usually set up for if you need a certain amount of money, you set up the founder sets up, different, stages or different amounts that you can invest to get a certain amount of ownership. If you're saying I'm only offering up 40% of the company because I want to keep 60% and maintain control of my company, I'm offering up 40% of the company, and for that 40% of the company, I am seeking $100,000 or $200,000, or in this case, $3.6 million. Right? Is what they say here on the average company. But let's say you're a small startup and all you need is $100,000 or $102,000 to get your idea into an actual working company so you can start the process of making money. Right? So that means each person say, okay, each level of coming in, you have to put in a minimum of $20,000. $20,000 gets you what? 10% or 5% or whatever the case it be. If one person can come up with the whole $150,000 or $200,000, that one person then gets 40% of the company. If two people can come up with that, each of them gets what? 20% of the company. If four people can come up with it, each one of them gets 10% of the company. You see where I'm going with that? If 10 people can come up with that, each one of them gets 4% of the company. You see where we're going with that? This is not a stage where you're going to have a whole bunch of everyday ordinary people who are going to be able to get in on it because there's only so much of the pot to go around. So what I'm trying to tell you is this. When you are presented with a chance to get in on the pre-seed funding stage of a company that makes sense to you, that looks like it has the opportunity or a chance to be something that's going to, change things or disrupt things or going to get a big market share, you better jump in on that when the jumping in is good. Because once that amount of money, once that's fully funded, it's done. You can't get in at that stage anymore. Because there can only be so many owners of the company. All right? Now this next stage, seed funding, is the first official funding stage, typically taking place after the startup has a small amount of traction. Okay? That means the company now is up and running. It's got clients. They're making some money. They're starting to gain a market share within the industry. It's an actual company now. It's making some money. It's got some headway. It's kind of moving along with things. Okay? We got money that's coming in. Now, who can invest at that stage? Investors in this stage include angel investors, incubators, and venture capital firms specializing in early stage investment. That ain't you. I'm telling you right now, that's not you. That's that stage where you got to be, you got to have some cheese, some cheddar, some money, some clout. SEC won't allow you to invest at that stage. I know it sounds unfair. But we already know the system is rigged to benefit the wealthy already, unless you take the risk of being in that seed funding stage. They say, okay, yeah, if you want to be in that stage, yeah, you can go for it. But when you get to this stage right here, the seed funding, the pre-seed funding, yeah, that's you. That's everyday ordinary people. The seed funding stage, that's not you. Okay? You got to be a venture capitalist. You got to be, an angel investor. You got to be an incubator. Okay? Which means you got to have quite a bit amount of money. Because when you get to that stage, the company is already showing that it has proof of concept. It's already shown that this could work. It's already shown that this is working. It's already shown that we have customers and we're growing and we're growing and we're growing. So now we want to get to the next level, but we need a big influx of funding. Because remember, we done set this thing where we got these, this money, these shares, 200 million shares, 60% of it is to the people who were in the pre-seed funding stage. Now this stage right here, we can now sell these shares to these venture capitalists. Okay, if you put in, $20 million, $30 million, $40 million, right? Yeah. You can get 1 million preferred shares. Now that's not a whole lot compared to what the pre-seed funding people got. And the pre-seed funding people didn't have to put in nearly as much money because they're the owners. But when you come into the second stage, you're going after bigger fish. And you can now show these bigger fish that we have revenue. We are gaining a certain part of the market share. And if we get another $100 million, we can pretty much almost take over the market. We can get to that point. We can get to that next stage. But you can invest in that. Only those people that have that kind of big money can invest in that. They say, okay, yeah, I want to, do $20 million for 500,000 shares, or I want to do $10 million for 500,000 shares. I want to do $20 million for for 1 million shares. Now, what these people are banking on, they're looking at the progress that this company has made. They're looking at, okay, well, shoot. They got about, a bunch of clientele. Right now they're bringing in revenue of about $100,000, $200,000, per month. They got good revenue coming in, or they got $50,000 per month, revenue coming in, or per week, or whatever they got coming in. And if we can give them an influx of money where they can really start doing some mass marketing and mainstream advertising and putting together some great campaign ads and hire some more people, and start doing this, buy some more more assets and things of that nature. Buy these assets that's going to help them to make more money. We can really push this company to the next level. Okay? And by doing that, we gain 2 million shares, 3 million shares, 5 million shares. Because remember, this company has over 100 million shares left to put out there. So if they can do this and gain, 20 million for 3 million shares, when it gets to the IPO stage, woo, that's going to make them a lot of money too. When it gets to the IPO stage, it's going to make the owners a lot of money, but that's going to make them a lot of money. Because they got all these shares now. All right, next stage, Series A funding. At this stage, startups have developed a track record and established user base, consistent revenue figures, and or some other key performance indicators. Now, at this point, the company is rolling, man. The company's gotten up there. Okay, oh yeah, okay, shoot. No. We're a major company. We're bringing in some money, but they're still a privately held company. They're still a private company, privately held company, which means the general public can't buy shares in it. They can't buy stock in it. It's a privately held company, but they're making money. They're making money. Y'all heard about these companies when they go, when they go public, all of a sudden the owners of the company, all those people that have invested in the company at their private held level, all of them become multimillionaires and billionaires. But we're going to get to that. Okay? All right, so at this stage, it's still a privately held company. All right? This is where venture capital firms are the primary investors in Series A rounds. That's not you. Again, that's not you. That's for these venture capital funds that have these hundreds, billions, some of them even trillions of dollars that they can throw into a company to push it to that next level. Okay? And these firms expect a developed business model and a clear strategy for turning a profit. At this point is when the company really has to have a defined business model. They have to show that this is how this thing is working. This is where we're going. This is what we plan to do in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. That type of deal. Okay? If we have this many trucks that we're leasing out and we get to that 500 truck level, we're bringing in 20 million, we're bringing in 15 million a week, over 52 weeks, that's $1.5 billion in a year, all that type of stuff. That's when you get to that stage, right? Then your next round of funding is called Series B funding. Companies that reach this stage are well established and seek to expand their market reach. Series B funding usually comes from venture capital firms. Again, that's not you. So as you all can see, all this funding in between, after the pre-seed funding, you can't take part in. That's not your opportunity. It's not meant for you. It's never going to be for you. So either you get in here at the pre-seed funding level, because you definitely can't get in at that level, can't get in that level, you can't get in at the Series B level. And then you have the Series C funding and beyond. These funding rounds, Series C, D, and beyond, are typically larger as the company has a proven track record. These rounds may involve private equity firms, investment banks, big money, trillions of dollars, and in some cases, hedge funds. And hedge funds at the top of the food chain. Hedge funds have $20 trillion, $30 trillion that they have to play with. All right. The end goal of these funding rounds is often to prepare the company for an initial public offering. There's that IPO that we've been talking about. That is the exit strategy. Either that or an acquisition. Either they get to an IPO stage where they want to go public, and that's when you can allow the general public to start investing in it. But I'm going to show you something. General public, when they go to IPO, that stock ain't as cheap as it was when it was in the pre-seed funding or some of those other stages. You giving this stock to these at the seed funding stage, these venture capitalists, they get their stock for pennies on the dollar. It's called penny stock, right? And these, Series B funding people, A funding people, they're paying a little bit more premium for it, but they get a bunch of shares for their money, right? And it's not really costing them a whole lot when you think about the amount of shares that they're getting for their money. So by the time it gets to this stage, and let's say at IPO, now I'm gonna show you. Now I'm gonna break this down to you all. I'm gonna break it down to you all to show you exactly what we're talking about when you get to the IPO stage. All right. In the pre-seed funding stage, you may have put in anywhere from $5,000. If you're the only one who's putting the money in, and the company said they need $100,000, you put in $100,000, you gain 40% of the company. If you gave $5,000 and you what's 5 divided by 100? That's 25,000. So you own what? $5,000. You own what? 4% of the company. Okay. Now I'm gonna show you something here. At the lowest level, the $5,000, you got 4% of the company, or 2.5% of the company, or whatever the case may be. Let's say at $5,000, you got 2.5% of the company. All right, and the company, when it gets out of this stage, then they can start creating shares. Let's say a company creates 250 million shares, which is not unheard of. Companies can create a company can create how many shares they want, depending on how big they think their market share is, and how many shares that they can sell once they go to an IPO. The thing is, you want to have an enormous amount of shares because you want to be able to give your owners, the people who believed in your product or your service in the beginning before it actually became a company, you want to be able to reward them with enough shares that's going to make them very wealthy when you get to that buyout or that end stage, or even when you start making money, they're getting their dividends. You want them to be able to recoup their money because they have a certain amount of ownership in the company. So even though you only invested $5,000 and your share of the company is 2.5%, but they create 250 million shares, and they take half those shares, they take 60% of those shares are for the owners of the company. So let's take out 60%. That minus 60%, that means that's 150 million shares that's coming out. Oh no, I'm sorry, 150 million shares that's staying with the owners of the company. All right, that means there's 100 million shares that's been set aside for all these other people, these venture capitalist firms, these key performance, all these people down here, venture capitalists, in the Series D and C and Series B, and and all those people. That's who that's for. For those accredited investors. Okay, that's who the 100 million shares are for. Okay, 150 million shares are now owned by the owners of the company. Everybody who participated in the funding part at the pre-seed funding stage. So now you got 100 million shares, all right? 150 million shares are split by them. So it's 150 million shares, and show you what your share count would be if you own 2.5% of that. So minus 2.5%. So your little $5,000 just got you 3,750,000 shares at your little $5,000 investment level because you got 2.5% of the company. Okay? You're one of the owners of the company. Even though you're a very small owner, but you got 3.7 million shares, or 2.5% of the company. Now, what that means, if that company starts doing, let's say, $100,000 or $50,000, let's say that company starts doing, $50,000 per week in revenue. Okay? $50,000 per week in revenue. Times 52 weeks. So that's $2.6 million. Not a whole lot of money when it comes to a company, right? Per year. But your dividend checks from that, because you own 2.5% of the company, after, expenses or whatever. Let's say that's what it is after expenses. Let's say your that $2.6 million in revenue that they have, because you own what? 2.5% of the company, right? minus 2.5%. So you're making $65,000 a year. From your little $5,000 you invested, they got you 2.5% of the company. That's not a bad return. That's an incredible return on any standard. So for your little $5,000 you invest, the company gets to the point where it's doing $50,000 a month in revenue, or $50,000 a week in revenue, $65,000 a year. It should cut from the revenue. That's not a bad. That's not a bad state. Now remember, you own what? What is it? You own how many shares? Was it? How many shares you own? I'm trying to see where we went back to the shares, to 2.5% of the shares you own, 600 shares. I think it was 1.5 million shares. Yeah, 1.5 million shares. I think that's what it was. Yeah. So you own 1.5 million shares, right? So you own 1.5 million shares. So when you get down here to this stage right here, let's say the company gets bought out, or let's say the company goes with an IPO. Now, when they get to the IPO stage, just before the IPO stage, you have your Series B and your Series C funding and your D funding, if you want to go as far as that. That's when you're selling those shares at penny stock to these accredited investors, because you want to give them an opportunity to get in on it and make some money. But you got to be an accredited investor. It's not your everyday ordinary people. You can't buy those shares. Only accredited investors can. So that extra 100 million shares that's out there, you can now start selling those shares off at, and this is before the SEC evaluates your company. Okay, they haven't seen your books, they haven't evaluated your company, they haven't given your company a value yet. So usually at that stage, the stock is very cheap. Very cheap. I'm talking like penny stock. When they say like 3.6 cents a share, or 11 cents a share, or 10 cents a share, or a dollar, is usually less than $1. So you got 100 million shares that you're selling off. And let's say you're selling off that 100 million shares at hold on here. Selling off the 100 million shares, 100 million shares. You selling off the 100 million shares, times 0 at a quarter per share, 0.25 cents times 0.25. All right. So you're selling them off at that. That means you're trying to raise another $25 million. But you've got 100 million shares out there that have now been bought up by who? By accredited investors. All right? That's not a bad deal. You get them at a quarter a share. Somebody come in and put in $20,000 at a quarter a share. They got how many shares? So if somebody comes in and do $20,000 and they bought them at a quarter a share times 0.25, they spent $5,000 for, they got 5,000 shares for $20,000. That's not bad. But that's not you. You can't do that. That's for accredited investors. Because I'm showing you what that $20,000 is going to get them once it goes to a public offering. Now, after that, you can now get it ready, because at this stage you're getting ready for the IPO. That's why you're selling off those shares, to get that extra money. So you're getting ready to go for the IPO, because you've given these people an opportunity to get these shares, and now they can make money once the stock goes public. So now you get to the IPO stage, and the SEC and the federal regulators, they come in and they want to see all your books. That's when you got to open up your books to the government, the SEC, all these people, all these financial government agencies. They're looking at your revenue. They're looking at your volume. They're looking at your market share growth. They're looking at your GPD. They're looking at all that stuff. And once they determine, okay, this company has got this many, they got a market share of the company of about 14.6% of the market, and they're let's say we're talking about my Easy Lease, and they're leasing out. They've got 2,000 trucks that they're leasing out on the average that they have active leased out each week, right? And those 2,000 trucks are bringing in a revenue of about 200 a week each truck or whatever the case may be. So, that's when you start getting up to that, okay, let's say 2,000 trucks, one too many, 2,000 trucks, and they're bringing in 2,400 a week. That's 4.8 million a week times 52 weeks. That's $249 million. Roughly $250 million a year. Now, when you look at the growth expansion and they determine what that company is worth, they take that and they say, okay, if this company is growing at a rate of 10% per year or 10% per year in revenue over the next 10, 15, or 20 years, the lifespan of the company, we're looking at a company that's probably that's worth close to $1 billion or over $1 billion. If you do the math on that, that's probably going to put you somewhere in the 15 to $20 billion is what that's going to put the value of that company. That's what the SEC does. They come in and they look at it as, okay, this company has a value somewhere between 80 and and $100 billion, or somewhere between 20 and $40 billion. So they'll do a conservative valuation of your company is worth $30 billion, and the stock that they were selling, all these people bought at 25 cents a share, the stock on that is now worth $150 a share. So that person that's got 5,000 shares, that spent their $5,000 and got how many shares? No, they spent $20,000 and got 5,000 shares. So now that person's got 5,000 shares. They spent $20,000 for that 5,000 shares, and the shares now are worth times $180 each share. So now they $20,000 worth $900,000. They're almost a millionaire off their little $20,000. Now these people up here, they're multi-millionaires, and these people where? Up here, pre-seed funded. Woo! Because remember, you got at your $5,000 got you 1.5 million shares. So your $5,000 got you 1.5 million shares. Because remember, you own 2.5% of the company. So your $5,000 got you 1.5 million shares. So now your shares are now worth $180 a share. Your $5,000 just turned you into your net worth is now $270 million. Think about the person that has 10% share, or think about a person that has 20% of the company. Woo! They're billionaires. This is what I mean when I say to you, if you invest in an already established company, you're not making money for yourself. Okay, you're not going to become wealthy in your lifetime when you invest in established companies. Procter & Gamble, Ford Motor Company, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Uber, all these companies are already set up and already going. You ain't going to make Amazon, you ain't going to make no money, not for yourself. You're securing your financial future for your grand, great-grand, and great-great-grand and beyond. But if you invest in an idea, or if you invest in a vision of a company, you invest in the concept, do your research, evaluate it, and see what type of market it's in, and then kind of set some parameters and determine, okay, is this going to something that could change the industry? Is this something that can bring about significant change within the industry? Is this something that a lot of people have been talking about that they really want, or does aspects of this satisfy a big part of the market, the industry? If your answer is yes to that, then that's a company you need to be putting your money into at the pre-seed funding stage. But remember that pre-seed funding stage is very limited, and that is the only stage where you can get in until it gets to this stage down here when those shares are $180 a share, and you can't really afford a whole lot of them shares at that point, or they're $200 a share, or whatever the case may be. There's only two places for the average person to get in when it comes to investing in a company. Okay? The pre-seed funding, which is very limited, that may only comprise of 10, 15, 20 people. That's it. So that's a dog-eat-dog point right there. But that is the best chance for you to become very wealthy. But you can't be one of those people who say, well, give me until the first of the year to think about it. By the time you get to the first of the year, you ass out of luck. I'm telling you right now. You get to the first of the year, the first of the year, I'm going to be ready. Well, all the slots are filled. That's not an unlimited slot. There's not an unlimited number of slots to be an owner of a company. At most, 15, 20 people. At most. On average, 5, maybe 7 or 8 people. So at that stage, this is when you got to be able to do your research fast, make a decision, and pull the trigger. That's when you got to pull the trigger. I failed to pull the trigger when it came to Zephyr Hill's bottled water. God, I failed to pull the trigger. But that's the stage where the average person has a chance to become wealthy, or even a billionaire. Depends on how much they're going to put in. That stage is where you have the best opportunity of becoming wealthy or financially independent within your lifetime with that investment. When it gets to here, you're out of it. C funding area, Series A funding, Series B funding, Series C, and beyond funding, you're out of it. The only other chance you got to get back in is when it goes to an IPO, and they're now selling shares at the valuated price, which is way more than what you could have gotten those shares for up, here. Because remember, in the scenario that we presented, 1.5 million shares you got for $5,000. So that means you got those shares for what? 1.5 million shares divided by 5,000. Or am I doing that right? Yeah, you got it for $300 a share. But you got 1.5 million of them. Woo! You came out like a fat cat. Because down here at the IPO stage, if you were to buy 1.5 million shares at $180 a share, hold up here, yeah, times 180. You have to spend, hold up, let me get this right. $180 a share, 1.5 million. Right. Whoa. Yeah. $180 a share. Yeah. Yeah, you buy 180 at $180 a share times 1.5 million shares. You have to spend $270 million. You see what I'm saying? That's the difference. This is you investing in a company that's already established and already public at the IPO price. That's you investing in a company for 1.5 million shares. You got to spend $270 million. You see what I'm saying? Versus up here, you get the same 1.5 million and you only spent $5,000 because you came in at the what? The vision stage. You took a chance. You took a risk. You believed in a company when there was nothing there but an idea, a vision, a concept, maybe a website or something that was up to show you how it all works. Well, maybe they put something up and they've got a few, 15, 20, users or 100 users or 8, 9, 10, 12 clientele that they have that they're catering to right now, because it's still in the concept stage. It's really in the very early concept stage. It's in the pre-startup stage. But that's where you have an opportunity to make your wealth. And the only other opportunity you're going to get to buy shares is when it gets down here in the IPO stage. And you ain't making no money for yourself then. You're making money for your heirs, but not for you. All right? So that's it, people. Look, I'm trying to get back on here and stop this share. Stop this, stop share.